All right, welcome back, people of YouTube. We got more disassembly on the car today. We're working on taking the suspension apart a little bit and the brakes, the top part, and get this ready to get the whole cradle dropped out with the engine transmission. So working on that. And on top of that, we got the back, which we might run into a little bit of a problem because for some reason, once we parked the car in here, the e-brake came on. But I think basically disconnecting the brake lines will release the pressure and the brakes will free up. That way we can get the drive shaft out and continue on moving. As far as the top part of it is concerned, most of that is ready to go. Got a fuel line, maybe a couple little odds and ends. We'll find out when it starts coming down. And then we'll carry on disassembling. It's a lengthy process. My time is limited here, so if you'd like to help out and things get going a little faster on these projects, you can do your part and like and subscribe, and that will help things roll along a lot faster. All right, so next thing, we're gonna take these brake lines off. We're gonna disconnect all the sensors and everything, because everything from this cradle point down is gonna drop down with the whole assembly. I'd like to keep it all together as much as possible. We'll wheel it out on some dollies and pressure wash it and clean it all up. Just a few bolts at the top, a few lines in the ride height, the ride sensors that determine magnetic shocks, ride quality and stuff like that. There's not a whole lot going on here, like I said, other than the brake lines, getting them off, all these little clips that hold all the wires in place and such. So we'll just do what we do and jump into some time lapse and get busting it out. Nice thing about GM, most American cars, 13, 10 millimeter, take apart the whole car. So we got both those with us. And we'll start out with the 10, I think. As soon as I say that, we got a oddball. Things we learn. This is the speed sensor held in with the 10. There we go. Vehicle speed sensor. Another 10 on the top of the brake line, holding it to the strut. That's loose. We'll figure out what we actually need for that, which is gonna be why they do that oddball. Let's put an 11 in here. Oh, and we got a nice little container from the kitchen. Don't worry, the old lady won't mind. I don't have one. That's probably why. And none of that went in there. Perfect. There's a bunch of little clips fastening everything down. They just, nice little pry tool. That one's broken. Great. I believe this one's going right into the shocks. The struts. And you pop up the little red tag, which allows you to press. And not remove anything. Why do we even try? Nice if a guy could get his hand in it. That would be too simple. Rinse and repeat 3 more times. All right, I'm back. We had to pause for the weekend. Everything got exciting around here last weekend, and my son had to put a stereo in their Miata, and it kept blowing the amp on that deal. So what we had to do was put an ohm on the speaker wire to see what was going on. It turns out it had the wrong speakers in it. Someone had tried to put in there and blew the head unit on it. So then we took in, put a new one in, new speakers in it, fixed that all up, got that working. And we'll get back to the car here. What we got to do is take the rear end out and the engine out of this thing next. And I already got the rear end pretty much ready to go. I went under there to get a few tools ready to go and check it out. And then there's just like 4 bolts holding it in and a couple wires. So there's one more wire and a heat shield, and then the front, the drive shaft. I didn't get the drive shaft yet because I had to drop it down so I could get to the bolts because the electric park brake is on it and you can't rotate anything around. So now we'll just get you guys underneath there and take a look and show you what's going on underneath there. All right, as you can see, we've got things just kind of balancing on the jack right now, and I've got it lowered down. And like I said, it's super easy to take these things out. If you had to, say, do a rear gear or something like that, you could take it out even easier, but just by pulling the center unit out. What we got here is this heat shield's got to come out underneath that end over there. There's a plug-in for that wire, and then the drive shaft, and then this unit is out. We'll slide him out, hopefully, if there's enough room underneath here. I only got EA size jack stands to hold this unit up. There's this plug-in and this wire going up under the heat shield. I might be able to take it apart without pulling the heat shield, but it's got to come out anyway. There's a bunch of wires for the wire harness. It's got to come out anyway. So those bunch of number 10s, we'll pull them all out. A couple little 8s on the other thing, and we'll come back, show you what we got. Hopefully, we'll be sliding this thing out soon. There she is. Peace de resistance. It's nice that this thing is one solid unit. When I go to build mounts for the spring purchases and these 4 locations, should make things pretty easy, I think, relatively. Now next, what we're going to do, I'm running out of space around here. So this is the emergency brake. Cables go in there, could have unbolted it there and there, I guess. Next thing we got is the engine. About all we have left on the engine is that fuel line right there. Everything else is out all around it. A couple brackets underneath there for the transmission, and the bolts holding the cradle in, and the supports. These are separate pieces. They support on both sides, so we'll get that. We got to get the hoist moved over and motor chained up. We'll hold it up and then get everything apart from the bottom. Come back to the hoist, lower it down nice, get it on another set of these dollies like we have under this, and then hopefully we'll be pushing the engine out here to the side, and not too much time. Alright, so behind me we got the engine out and on the ground. There's some tips I wanted to share with you when you're doing this in a garage situation. So normally you'd have your hoist, you'd have a table, a sturdy table or something like that to set the engine on and then lift the body off of the car. And doing it in the garage, and it's a little sketchy, so I kind of did it off camera, just YouTube things. But what I wanted to do is kind of go over some safety tips and stuff like that for doing it in the garage that should help you stay safe doing that. And I'm not saying this is the proper way to do it, but it's the way I did it, and hopefully your results may be as good as the outcome I came with. So we'll switch around here and I'll show you out. Alright, so you see the engine on the ground here, and one of the things that I did with the hoist, and it performed perfectly, is chain the motor up good on each side, and then I had lifted it 2 or 3 times to get the balance right, and that's the most crucial part when you got all the drive lines still attached to it. And it was easy to find the balance near the rear of the motor. And the problem I was having with the broken motor mounts is that the engine cradle wanted to fall away from it. So it's on the jack stands and supported, and it's pretty sturdy for the most part. But this frame has some tweak in it from the damage. There's about one jack stand that's about that far, not even touching, just kind of there for moral support, I guess. And one mistake that I made, and I thought I was taking my time and doing everything as best I could, but what I had done was forgot to disconnect my slave cylinder for the clutch, and it just basically ripped it off of there. So that's $120 mistake right there that I made. A little unfortunate, but things happen. So make sure you double check that you got everything disconnected when you're coming down. And it was just dark hole, completely spaced it off. I was a little bit excited that it was coming down and working so good. So with the engine cradle drop down, I used the jack and I supported it from the bottom just to not lift the car, but just keep the weight on it, you know, to keep the cradle from falling down. Then I had it supported also from the top with the hoist, and the hoist, no problem picking the whole car up. Like, it could pick it right up off the jack stands with that, just with the engine. So the engine was picking the whole car up, the front of the car, supported on the chain, and pulled the weight up. It was just about to take the weight off of the jack stands, but didn't. Kept that there. Then removed the bolts from the bottom, 6 or 8 bolts. And that was really quick. I mean, it doesn't take much. And then once that's done, and you got your bolts and it's free and it's supported by the chain, you're going to want to get your jack out of there and lower the jack down slowly, which, if you won't have broken motor mounts, won't be a problem. Then the cradle wanted to fall on the one side where it's completely broken free quite a ways. It hung there on the other one a little bit, and then I got that out, got my dollies in place, and then slowly lowered the hoist, set her down nicely on the dollies, and rolled her right out. The worst part, it probably took 30 minutes to pull this wire harness, because there was one silly thing that they didn't have connected. Everything else was removed from here, from the computer. This one also goes into the fuse block, which is removable. Here's the fuse block, and this part separates with a contraption, and all of it plugs into the bottom of there. And then it separates from half from the bottom half, and this is the other half of where that wiring attaches in there. There's 4 clips on each side that you have to kind of finagle around and get them to pop out of that box there. And then we just slid him up out of the way. The other thing you're gonna have when you're coming down is when these come out of the pocket for the top of the strut tower, everything wants to just fall out. So going down nice and slow, you can get one out, get it kind of hanging on its own, then you can get the other one out so they don't just flop out on you. And they're not real heavy, but they do have a little bit of weight. And then you can set it down nicely. We'll get over here, show you some more of the crack. This car got rocked pretty hard, and this entire motor mount is just not even there. It's completely gone, busted. The other side, not doing much better. The lower pedestal is still intact, but the upper bracket is completely gone. Not the end of the world. I do want to change these anyway. They make a nice thin steel motor mount. It's about $300. That bolts in here and bolts into there. It's a lot smaller and slim. It's made from steel, hardened bolts. So when you go to do your headers, you're gonna have plenty of room. Opens things up quite a bit. And there's where the clutch pulled the hose right off of it, and it was just a simple little E-clip. Pull him out, unplug him. I wouldn't have had a problem. $100. So it's important just to take your time and make sure you got everything going, and then it's supported by the jack stands, by the engine hoist, and a jack underneath this subframe. And then reaching under the side of it without getting under the car, just reaching down and then taking the bolts out of the bottom, one at a time, slowly, so things will drop a little bit and separate. This chassis has some tweak in it, so you gotta be, if you have something like that, you're gonna want to make sure that you're taking your time and don't just rip the bolt out. Take it out slowly, because there's going to be spring or energy built into the suspension, into the frame, from when it get hit and it was bent. And then once you release that energy, things can spring back and move and jump around, and you want to be as safe as you can doing that so you don't get hurt. You can actually have quite a bit of energy stored into the frame, and when you release that bolt, pop, and it'll violently move around. This one wasn't too bad, but it could, you know, who knows what one you have and how much damage it has and what could happen. So that's it for this video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.